name is Mark Robin Geier. I have an MD and a PhD in genetics. So I've been interested in vaccine safety and efficacy for 30 or more years. We were doing safety studies in a database called VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Reporting System, which was set up by the Vaccine Court, which I helped set up. That was one of the safeguards. Yes, we were not going to sue the companies, we were going to go to the court, but they were going to keep a database of all the reactions so we could at least see what was happening. And we were publishing from that, David and I were publishing various reactions. And so was the CDC. They had a VAERS action group, and they published about 30, and we published about 30. We even compared notes. And in most cases, we agreed. As I said, like on Guillain-Barré. I mean, maybe we had different numbers, but we agreed. We gave talks all over the country on that issue, and I appeared as an expert on that issue to try to get some of the kids paid that I thought were, needed to be paid. But the parents kept coming up to us, and they kept saying, "You're missing the boat. This thing is causing autism." And we go, "Autism? I mean, it's ridiculous. What's causing autism? Mercury. Mercury? I didn't know there's any mercury in the vaccine. Oh yeah, it's in the MMR vaccine." So we looked it up. One of the parents said, "There's no mercury in MMR." They were completely confused. They would annoy us so much, they would walk out of the room when we would talk. They were so mad at us because we wouldn't study that. Finally, we met with some of the parents' groups, and they said, "Well, if you won't study it, tell us how to study it." And we said, "Well, I guess you need 20 million people who have vaccines with thimerosal and 20 million who are unvaccinated, but everybody needs to be vaccinated. It's unethical. See you, go away." One day, the CDC published a paper on hepatitis B vaccine. And this is something they don't want you to think about, but when you buy a car, let's say you're going to buy a mid-sized car, there are 3 or 4 or 5 different companies that make it, and you can investigate which one's better. Did it ever occur to you that there's more than one company that makes each vaccine? Did it ever occur to you that one might be better than the other? Well, they are. And the VAERS database actually writes down which company. But we were never able to study that because you have to know how many they make. Let's say there were twice as many bad reports from company A as B, maybe they just made twice as many vaccines. Well, one day we saw a paper on hepatitis B that they published on company A and B. And by the way, they didn't tell you the companies, they told the code letters, but we knew which companies they were. And they said there were 8 or 10 times more reactions in company A than B, and they were talking about, local reactions and stuff. So we called them up and we said, "Hey, you know how many each company made?" "Oh yeah, we do. Would you share it with us?" So they said, "Okay, we'd prefer you didn't identify the companies, call them AB, ABC." So we said, "Okay." So they sent it to us, and then it occurred to us one day, it occurred to David actually one day, that there was a new DTaP vaccine called Inforex, which was made with 2-phenoxyethanol, no thimerosal. It had been given to millions of kids, and they told us how many millions. And we had other DTaP vaccines at the same time that had thimerosal, and nobody knew the difference. There was no reporting difference. The doctors didn't know, we didn't know. So David said, "I'm going to look and see if the reporting rate per million is different between the one with thimerosal and one without." And I said, "Yeah, go ahead, you're wasting your time, there's no difference." It came back 6 times different. There was 6 times more autism reported from that one vaccine. I mean, they still had other vaccines with mercury. And we published that paper, and by the way, we weren't convinced. I mean, an association does not prove causation, and we wrote in that paper that we were surprised, and isn't this an interesting association? Then some parents started giving us documents from the CDC. They did a study like that, and they did it on reviewing medical charts from California, and they found even more difference, but they didn't publish it. So then we started thinking, maybe it's real. Maybe we better really look at this. So we started looking at all different databases, and we started, finding that no matter how you looked at it, no matter who looked at it, it was always hugely different. Still not convinced. They started, at the minute we published that, they started getting angry. They're not going to talk to us. We're crazy. By the way, we have their emails now that said they confirmed our work, and they got to get rid of us, now. But anyway, we weren't convinced, so they were attacking the epidemiology, and we said, "Hey, I'm a doctor. I'm going to look at the patients. Let's not just look at the charts and the numbers." So we started measuring the mercury in the urine and the hair and the porphyrins and all that stuff. And everything you looked at, the more mercury they had, the more autism they had. And then Philippe Auguste published it, and then Australia published it, and South Korea published it. And then people started doing animal systems. And we started doing tissue culture. We found that it was that thimerosal is extremely toxic to neurons in tissue culture. And then Maddie Horning looked in mice, and they've looked in mice, rats, hamsters, monkeys. Doesn't matter where you look. Everybody finds the same thing. This stuff is terribly toxic, causes symptoms that look like autism. It affects the boys way more than the girls. It's so clear at this point. I once said that it's more proven than cigarette smoking. I said that to Dr. Greenland. That's the guy they brought to testify for the children who said it didn't cause. He got very angry at me. But it turns out David Austin in Australia, and I talked to him, I didn't tell him that, published in his paper. And guess what he said? We know it better than we cigarette smoking. It's almost as if he heard me saying it. And we do. Because although maybe there's a little more epidemiology with cigarette smoking, nobody really knows how cigarette smoking causes lung cancer. I mean, presumably it's, it changes the cells. We really know how autism is caused. I mean, we know the steps. We know exactly where mercury inhibits. We know that it raises testosterone. We have it all figured out. And everything that we've published has been confirmed everywhere. So in the sense of knowing the biologicals of it, we know thimerosal causing autism better than we know cigarette smoking causes cancer.